at Precinct, the beloved gay bar. We're here for the evening for the Mr. Chupada contest, which is a Latine leather contest. The contest hasn't started or anything. I think my head is askew, or my gear is askew. But I've just met someone who told me a chunk of his life story, and I wanted to tell you about it because it was quite extraordinary to me. So I'm getting better light if I face the street this way. So cute. Precinct is on the second floor. It's right across from this rather derelict building over there. And I don't know if you can see this if I'll turn my camera around, but someone's decorated the building like a pirate ship. Can you see that? With the flag and the skeletons? Isn't that adorable? So this fellow who shall remain anonymous was telling me about he had been born, his mother, shirtless man on the street. Hello, honey. Be careful picking up people who don't have a place to live. It can get hairy. He grew up on a reservation. He's part Native American, part black, and part white. And he lived with his mom on a reservation, and she was 15 when she had him. And she was unfortunately addicted to drugs. It was not a good situation. As you know, American society has tooled on Native Americans for so long and so hard that it's unfortunately it's created circumstances of poverty and trauma that leaves some medicating themselves with drug use and alcohol. I'm hoping to explain. I didn't know the person, so I don't know that part of the story. But I am trying to suggest compassion for circumstances that should not be judged and are usually very quickly judged. Anyway, that was his background. At the age of 12, a very mature-looking 12, he just wanted to have fun, and he wanted to get out, and they were in some store, and he was, as he put it to me, kind of wiggling his ass at men, trying to hoping to try and pick someone up. And some guy picked him up and took him home and fucked him and taught him to read. At the age of 12, he didn't know how to read. And the guy kept him around for 5 years. And he didn't have sex with them all the time. He brought other kids home for him to have sex with, and then he filmed it. And the guy would give him $500 for that, per film. Lovely, right? But it got him away from his drug-addicted mother. At 15, the guy gave him $500 and put him on a bus to San Francisco and said, "You'll be fine. You're a fag. Just go to a gay bar and they will help you." So that's what he did. He rolled into San Francisco and he got off the bus and he went to the Lone Star and he walked up to a lesbian bartender and he asked for help. And the lesbian bartender made a phone call to one of the San Francisco Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And from the story, he said, soon at the bar, at the Lone Star, arrived a tall sister with a leather habit and not the sharpest of makeup, and this was in the mid-90s, which leads me to wonder if it wasn't perhaps, forgive me if I've said anything amiss, Sister Dana Viniquity. And they took him home and told him, you either go to school or you feed the homeless. There's a big lasagna in the kitchen. Start boxing it up and we're going out and you're going to feed the homeless. The sisters helped him find placement in a house run by a lesbian who was very clear and very firm and had very clear rules. No drugs, you're in by a certain time, but ran this house herself and took care of kids from the street that had been thrown away by their families. Sort of like Paris is Burning, but a lesbian, so perhaps not the drag. And she said one of the rules was you go to school or you get a job. If you get a job, I will help you find a job. And so this is what he did. They said, you're good at fashion. We're going to put you in the fashion industry. And this is what they did. And he grew. And at around 19, a friend of his moved down to LA and was like, LA's insane. You have to come down here. And he moved down here to Los Angeles around 1999. Well, it's 2026. He's an adult. And he has a job, and he's smart and friendly and talkative and seems to have his feet on the ground. But he told me this story, and I'm telling you this story because I want some things to be available for you to think about, and they are: one, this is what sisters do, so if you see us, help us do it. Either you can donate to us, and we'll give that money to the charities that are taking care of these kids, or join in with us. We'll help you find good charities where you can do work that you're in, that helps a part of community that you're interested in helping. But there's a lot of work. On any given night, there are 500,000 kids. Okay, here's a statistic from a documentary I watched this week from 1981. And the professor doing the research stated that on any given year, 500,000 kids disappear. They're thrown out of their homes, they run away from violence, or they're kidnapped, and they disappear. There are, in the late 90s, I got the statistic that on any given night in LA, there are between 5,000 and 15,000 homeless kids, 40 to 50% of which identify as LGBT. In Houston in 1981, it was 500 kids on any given night. Lord knows what it is now. So the work is immense, and it needs everyone to help. So I'm hoping that this story will inspire you by showing you the depth of help that is needed by what happens. This is a productive adult member of society who went through these real situations as a teenager. We need to know that they're there, and that good people, good kids, fall through the cracks. And it is worth gathering resources and making an effort to bring them home, to help them. Not bring them home to a troubled home, but to bring them to our community where we can help them set up for life. The other thing by telling you this story is to open your eyes, hopefully, that this happens. If I had $1 for all of the people I've met, either on the street or who were on the street at some time, turning tricks to survive because they had no resources, because they had no family, well, I wouldn't be rich, but I could buy myself a pretty fucking nice outfit. It happens a lot. It happens all over. It happens in so many of our cities. And one thing we're learning from the Trump-Epstein revelations is that kids who are vulnerable, sometimes even kids with a home, with a good loving family, like many of Trump's female victims, but also the kids who run away, they get scooped up by people who pimp them, film them, or snuff film them, or rape them and kill them. 50% of the kids on the streets of LA now will die before the age of 30. 50%. In this documentary from 1981 in Houston, this professor was saying that 50% of the kids on the streets of Houston would die before the age of 20. So we've improved, but not that much. I'm saying this in hopes that you will spread the word that there is an enormous endemic problem with how our society treats youth that are in trouble or who have survived or are surviving trauma. It is not their fault that they are gay, trans, lesbian, asexual, intersex, the rest of our community. It is not their fault that their parents beat them, were violent. It is not their fault that their parents were intolerant and ignorant and didn't understand what it is to be LGBT. It is not the kids' fault. The kids doing the best they can with who they understand themselves to be. They need our help. The greatness of a society is not measured by the wars it wins, or the height of its buildings, or the wealth of its billionaires. The greatness of society is measured by how many of its people without resources that it lifts up and places in the mainstream of society. By the amount of compassion that it exhibits. This is the greatness of a society. So now you know. Now what will you do? If you want ideas and you don't have any of your own, talk to a sister of perpetual indulgence. We're here to help. Because something has got to be done now. Thanks for listening.